It's only 5 miles. Just a good stretch of the legs.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 things in old Hollywood that wouldn't work today.
Terrible in the stuff.
No.
I don't even know how to put it on.
I'll put it on for you.
For this list, we're looking at the tropes, trends, and attitudes that may have been normalized in classic movies, but would cause a hailstorm of controversy today. This isn't to say old Hollywood is too problematic to enjoy. It's just that attitudes and cultural mores have shifted dramatically since then. Did any of these trends shock you? Sound off in the comments. Number 10. Smoking. We've come a long way from the days of cigarettes and cigars being commonplace in public spaces. In many old Hollywood movies, not only was smoking acceptable, it was actually very chic.
The word gets out. You don't mind, do you, darling?
What was a Hollywood glamour girl without a chrome-plated cigarette case or a long, elegant cigarette holder? Who was James Bond without the cigarette dangling casually from his mouth? Since those days, the health hazards of smoking have made it less common for big stars to smoke on screen. If they do, it's usually not romanticized like it was in the golden age of Hollywood.
What do you think's fair?
I'll leave that to you.
Number 9. Massive age gaps. Romantic relationships between people of different generations are not inherently wrong, provided both parties are above the age of consent. However, it was almost a trend of its own in classic Hollywood movies.
How old is Liane?
About 30.
That may be it. Youth is the thing, Gaston. Youth. Stay close to the young and later rubs up.
While movies usually shied away from commenting explicitly on the age gap between the romantic leads, it's not necessarily difficult to see how much older and grayer Grace Kelly and Audrey Hepburn's male co-stars usually were. Make no mistake, it was almost always the women who were younger, and in many cases, infantilized by the movies they were in.
I've been waiting all day for you to mention that kiss I gave you last night.
You know, back home in Oregon, we'd call you a headstrong girl.
Although it's still a common practice in today's Hollywood, it's not nearly as noticeable with modern advancements in medicine.
Does it get easier?
No. Yes. It gets easier.
Number 8. RENO divorces. Back in the day, divorce wasn't just frowned upon. It was also much harder to get one.
You left, you got a whole new family. Divorce.
What? Yeah. First on my block. That's a city block.
If you wanted out of a marriage with as little trouble as possible, you disappeared to Nevada for a few weeks. Reno became a symbolic location in old Hollywood, the place where people went when they needed out of a marriage fast.
Why, it's just a little town, isn't it? Big enough to hold a courthouse. That's all I care.
I hope it takes at least a month for my divorce. I want to stay here long enough to improve my backhand.
It's generally used to comic effect in movies like The Women or Libeled Lady, where a divorce always came in clutch to make a love story pop. Reno divorces made for some great drama, but with more relaxed legal procedures, it's become completely outdated.
Did you know about this?
Oh, of course not, but what do you care? You don't love Howard
That
anyway.
has nothing to do with it. How much did he settle on you? I made Howard pay for what he wants.
Number 7. Monochrome casting. It's no secret that old Hollywood was very white. Monochrome casting refers to ensembles that are the same race, at least visibly. It's essentially a form of screen segregation.
Want to do paint in place for corny?
Are you crazy? You gotta dance with your crowd, I gotta dance with mine.
Why?
Real-life segregation laws and production code rules against miscegenation led to a fear that too many people of color in a cast would jeopardize box office earnings. The major African-American stars of the era made most of their careers playing subservient domestics or, on rare occasions, in movies that featured all-black casts.
My, ain't that something? A skiddly-boop-de-doodly-bump, hear me shout. My, ain't that something? Ain't that something to shout about?
While monochrome casting still exists in some ways, it's especially rare that it goes by without commentary or criticism, particularly when people of color are conspicuously absent.
Gosh, I gotta get some black friends.
Number 6. Casual misogyny. Sexism in old movies, you say? Why, the scandal!
Dink, say goodbye to Felix. Man talk.
No matter how big the female stars of the era got, they were still on screen competing for men, being treated like dirt by men, and being subservient to men. If they weren't being seduced, they were being infantilized or downright brutalized.
Thanks.
My father would be proud of you!
That's not to say there weren't some incredible deviations from the norm, even in the 1930s. Many classic movies use violence against women for comedic effect. Although the line between traditional slapstick humor and glamorizing violence is often pretty blurry. Like most things in pop culture, casual misogyny didn't die. It just changed form. Number 5. Colonial heroes.
My friends, it's always been like this since Bible days. Every generation must make its own way, in one place or another.
Hollywood movies really are the great maker of American myths. And nothing says American myth like stories about white people manifesting their destiny from sea to shining sea. For years, Hollywood pumped out period pieces about John Wayne protecting stagecoaches from Apache raiders and historical tales of frontier families taming the land and also fighting off Native Americans.
You may need me in this Winchester, Curly. Saw a ranch house burning last night.
Conveniently, the movies hardly ever say why the Native Americans would be so angry. Admittedly, the decline of this kind of movie probably had more to do with diminishing box office returns and the advent of TV than political correctness. To make a Western now requires a bit more context and a bit more empathy for the indigenous people who used to be in human hordes.
Got time to sit with me?
I ain't going nowhere.
Number 4. Casual homophobia. It's a myth that gay characters weren't included in classic Hollywood films. Of course, their sexuality was hidden in subtext to appease the censors.
Pity we couldn't have done it with the curtains open and the bright sunlight. You can't have everything, can we?
Even before the production code, when queerness was allowed to be more visible, it was often used as a punchline. When queerness became more visible later on, though, any sign of gayness or cross-dressing was treated as a joke at best and something hopeless, depraved, and violent at worst.
They'll see and they'll know, and they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
Queer characters have been given more dignity on screen, and there's still a long way to go, but it's miles better than where movies were. Number 3. Casual attitudes toward slavery. If studios made westerns because they were cheap, they made Southern set period dramas because they were prestigious.
Awesome, Miss Julie, right? Nice and pretty.
Gone with the Wind, Song of the South, and Jezebel all paint a nostalgic and sumptuous picture of the past. That's not all these movies have in common, though. They also severely underplay the lived conditions of enslaved people.
Scarlett, I will not make money out of the enforced labor and misery of others.
You weren't so particular about owning slaves.
That was different. We didn't treat them that way.
As depicted, the slaves in these movies always seem fairly happy to be a white man's property or figure of entertainment. The reality is, even if some forward-thinking director wanted to craft a realistic portrayal of slavery, it would probably run afoul of the production code's most basic rules. As knowledge about this shameful institution becomes more complex, so do the portrayals of its victims.
500 pounds of cotton, day in, day out, more than any man here. And for that I will be clean. That's all I ask.
Number 2. Casual racism. While the American screen was no stranger to virulent and blatant racism, such as in the racist propaganda epic Birth of a Nation, it also took on subtler forms in classic Hollywood. Subtler, at least to white audiences. The people of color who did make it into early movies were often subject to insensitive remarks, even from characters we're meant to like. Foreign characters were often treated with either suspicion or exoticism that disrespectfully flattens cultures into something one-note and digestible or inherently ridiculous.
How do you do it?
You are familiar with Pidgin English?
Oh, sure.
Although things have gotten better, this trope was still in use well into the 1980s. It's not just the racism that shocks a modern audience. It's the callous and completely brazen way these movies throw it at us.
What's he saying? He says, Peter Pan, mighty warrior, save Tiger Lily, make big chief heap glad.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Blackface, brownface, and yellowface. Actors playing characters of different races and ethnicities is bad enough. However, movie stars being made up to adopt the skin color and features of different races was actually commonplace in old Hollywood.
But believe me, these matters take time. You must be patient.
With your permission, my president, we make our tortillas out of corn, not patience.
Born from the stage tradition of racist minstrelsy, blackface was featured in the first all-talking motion picture starring Al Jolson. Louise Reiner won an Oscar for playing an East Asian woman in The Good Earth. Even the holiday classic Holiday Inn has a prominent blackface number.
He answered, "Go on out, see if you can get on my general's tired."
Variations of this have occurred all over classic Hollywood in big and small ways. If a movie star were to do this today, it would be a disaster. Modern audiences are more in tune with the harmful racist histories of these makeups.
It was a tribute to Beyonce, but people did not take it that way.